Okay, all right. Welcome, Bill. Do you have a question for Andy?
Yeah, I certainly do. Andy, do you know how William Whitecrow died?
No, I don't know how he died, although, I mean, I was told his mode of death, which was hanging.
Oh, wow.
There was a suggestion that it was either murder, suicide, or an accident during an act of autoerotic asphyxiation, which has taken the lives of, David Carradine, the actor. Robin Williams was an intentional hanging, but we don't know. What we know is he had a dispute that day with somebody who was using his ingress to his property, like sealing it off. And he had some property dispute that day. I know, and I think it's okay to say that his family believes he was murdered.
Wow.
But do I know what happened to William? No, and it was a great loss.
That's
going to be for president.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Sorry, but that's exactly why the major reason I called, because I was listening to Truth Frequency Radio when he came out and went undercover with you on his show. And then I got a radio show and I used to talk to him for hours, and I've interviewed him. I interviewed him for many shows. And the day I found out he died, I actually spoke to his wife and she wouldn't tell me anything. And we know damn well the erotic asphyxiation was BS. So at least now I know, and I believe that, of course, he was murdered. He was letting out too many secrets. But I miss him so very much because I am very much a follower of Christ. And I know that there are many Christians that get really upset when you say that you have a shaman, but he was my shaman. And till this day, I know he's with me. There's no doubt in my mind. And
William was a great individual. I first met him in spring of 1971 when I was in the 4th grade, when Karen Taylor, who was doing martial arts stuff involving the mind, told us he would be joining us in our 5th grade year to do martial arts involving the body. And he taught me how to protect myself. And that's why I was such a bad wrestler in high school, because I was afraid of letting my fists fly. And when the guy tried to pin me, and tried to wrestle me, I was having trouble blocking the martial arts training that William gave me when I was just a little kid. And one time Brett Stillings was hosting me at his mother's then house in La Crescenta, California. And he rushed into my room at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I did the dragon drop where I snapped my legs and spine against the mattress of the bed. And I flew across the room, literally.
Wow.
Like Jackie Chan. And that's thanks to Whitecrow. But no, I believe he was probably murdered. The psychics I've consulted have said that. Wow. He was not depressed. He was expecting to do an interview with Tommy Mikey Schroeder Jensen of the Mars Anomaly Research Society, who was based in Denmark. He said he had something he wanted to discuss that he had never talked about on radio. He was a member of Project Omega, which is the elite Army officers who surround ET craft with orders to kill any human, extraterrestrial, or creature that comes between their cordon line and the craft, the ET craft. So Whitecrow was involved in a lot of sensitive stuff, and it looks like he was murdered. The notion of autoerotic asphyxiation was just sort of floated, and it was affirmed when the coroner, I believe, described his death as an accident. That was code talk for autoerotic asphyxiation-based accidental death. I had a high school classmate who died that way. It happens. We certainly have to teach our young men not to try to achieve an erection by strangling themselves. It's a bad idea. Yeah. But no, I don't believe that took Whitecrow's death. He certainly was a he-man who would have been short of no female attention should he have wanted to express himself in that area. I just don't believe he would have murdered himself like that. Being an army man, he would have shot himself before he strangled himself and gave himself the ignominious death of a hanging. How deserters and treasonous are treated in America.
Well, that's probably how they looked at him, as a treasonous traitor for giving out the deepest, darkest secrets. So they thought it was fitting for him to go that way.
Well, that's my concern, and it's a tremendous loss. He was a good friend. He was an esteemed colleague. He was a man of honor. He was a shaman. He was a very advanced soul, and I think about William all the time.
Well, so do I, and I want to thank you for answering that question, because he related his two past death experiences with my audiences, and I just could not imagine how he would pass to the other side, and I would not know. So I want to thank you so very much for kind of clearing that up with me.
Well, thank you. I write about William Whitecrow's death in my upcoming book about my Mars experiences, and I talk about how he could have been murdered by the Army because he was part of Project Omega and was ready to go forward. That's what I suspect was going on, but I don't have any firm and fast information.
Well,
I just heard about it from Chris and Cherie Gio, who, of course, were not only hosting Whitecrow and I a couple interviews, but he had married them.
Yep.
He had been their minister when they married.
wow.
And were as devastated as all of us were about his untimely passing. What a disaster.
Horrible.
He still had a lot of life in him. He still had a lot to give. He was one of the major military officers affirming the time travel experiences, affirming my Mars experiences, endorsing me for president. He was an extremely valuable ally of mine. And I'm suspicious just of that fact, that as such, he was killed.
Wow.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it really is kismet or synchronicity that I'm speaking to you now, because Mr. Moriarty called, quite frankly, because he had played one of your interviews, and Mr. Moriarty here, he called into the show. So I hunted him down and I found out that he had a show, and I listened to your last show, and I commented in the comments that, I had something to say. Anyway, I had just gotten in from the gym, took a shower, but I had a little Post-it note on my dresser, 4:00 Eastern, so that I could speak with you. And yeah, all I can say to you, sir, is stay safe and blessed.
Thank you. By the way, do you know Whitecrow's friend Wally Chisholm?
No, I can't say I do, even though he did mention him. He did mention him, but I have had no contact with him.
Yeah, I received a number of calls from Wally, and then began calling him and discussing Whitecrow's death with him in like 2018 and 19. And then his number stopped working. I have no knowledge where he is.
Oh my goodness.
That's funny, because I still have William Whitecrow's phone number in my phone, and I will never part with it. I also have one of his pictures wearing that silly space helmet that he took for his grandson. I mean, it just, basically, I am so blessed to have met that man, because he did change my timeline, and I'm here speaking to you, which I'm sure will change my timeline. But my question is, what are we doing? Okay, big question. What are we doing here where satanic ritual abuse is taking place every second of every day, and we're fighting against this?
What was that Indian reservation in Southern California that, Cabazon. Yeah, he had grown up on the Cabazon Indian Reservation as William Paris.
Right.
So his affiliation with Native Americans was not ethnic in terms of his own ancestry, it was parental, based on being raised at the Cabazon Indian Reservation. So he was a shaman or medicine man, as they're sometimes called, per se. He knew a lot. He had studied a lot.
Wow.
But I was just wondering if you had spoken to his friend Walter Chisholm about him, because I had a number of very interesting conversations with Wally, and then couldn't reach him. Don't know where he is. So yeah, his name was William Paris, and in fact, I guessed his name correctly when I met him. He said, "Kids, my name is the name of a famous town somewhere in Europe." And one of the kids standing next to me, David, who went on to become an MD, PhD, said, "London." And he shook his head no, and I said, "Paris." And he smiled and shook his head at me. So he was following me the whole time I was in that program.
Cool.
Taught me how to defend myself on a 4-inch parallel type beam,
Wow.
a balance beam, not parallel, but balance beam,
Mm-hmm.
while he was jousting at us with this jousting rod.
Wow.
We had to stay up there on that 4-inch balance beam. He taught us how to roll with the punches, and I've done that a couple times during accidents and been uninjured. I did it when I hit the surface of Mars with Bernard Mendez, and the jump room broke apart. And we hit the surface so much there were actually little stones shoved into our body, you know,
Wow.
pressed into our skin,
Wow.
our outer skin. So I credit Whitecrow with teaching me certain martial arts training that saved my life.
And so, Aaron, I would like to apologize because my last question could have gotten you kicked off of YouTube. But anyway, I often question why it appears I'm just bacteria in a petri dish, and I realize that there's more than the petri dish.
Yeah. What is the name of your radio show? So our listeners.
I gave that up about 1.5 years ago. I was Voices from Afar on 2 different networks, but I had a falling out with the producer, with the owner of the second station, because anyway, it was all it was a Christian question that I just walked away from the show. But anyway, yeah, I no longer do radio. I hung up my microphone and headphones for a much more relaxed, because I used to do 2-hour shows a week and produce a third one for one of my co-hosts. But when I was done with that, I was done with that. But if you're interested in seeing or hearing some of my interviews, and my very, very first interview was with Gary Byrne. He was the Secret Service agent that protected Clinton from the Oval Office for 8 years, and that's an incredible story. But if you're interested, my website is theearthcode.com, and thank you for letting me get that plug out. But my YouTube channel is Fall of Media, and that comes after I lost my Mr. Purple Tie. I'm known worldwide on the internet as Mr. Purple Tie. During the Great Purge of October 15th, I lost that channel with over 35,000 subscribers,
Wow.
14 million views, and over 700 videos. So my backup channel is Fall of Media, one word. But anyway, this has been a great honor and a great pleasure.
Thank you for calling. Thank you for calling and asking Andy. Andy, you have any words for Bill?
No, just that Whitecrow and I had one of the most unusual allyships or friendships I had in my life, because, you know, I met him in 71, and then I met him on Mars in 1982. And then I met him outside his prepper compound near Reading in August of 2015. So our intermittent contact stretched over 30 years. The strangest
Wow.
interaction with somebody, and for it to be such a special person, I think it was a measure of his peripatetic character that caused that in my life, not mine, perhaps my peripatetic character as well. Meeting in the middle, but I met him in 71, 82, and then 2015. I was introduced to him by our mutual friend Ed Shiraki, the conference promoter in Redding, California. And Ed just totally went into a white hat. I stood up at the little table outside Whitecrow's house and said, "I know who you are. You're the guy who taught me martial arts in Pegasus. And then I ran into you on, Brett Stillings and I ran into you on Mars. Remember you were standing in front of the Quonset hut smiling at us?" And he said, "Yes, I did. You can sit down, Andy." So he realized I was telling the truth. And he gives me credit for that interview that he did with, actually, I don't even know who that was, where he said that it took me 30 years to find him. It actually took me a little bit less than 30, but I still spent many years trying to find him.
Wow.
And we can thank Ed Shiraki, the late Ed Shiraki, for finding him. But yeah, Whitecrow will always be missed. He was a special individual.
He was a very cool guy. He was
Yes.
One of my Facebook.
And he taught people how to relax and roll with life's punches and enjoy it. In other words, he was teaching people for a reason, and that was to get mastery over their balance, their reactions, especially their emotional reactions to things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been of incomparable value to my accomplishments in this life.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
When you run for the highest office in the land and crazy stories are being made up about you, it's very easy to adopt William Whitecrow's shamanic vision of reality,
mm-hmm.
which he just exuded.
Yes. Thank you. Bill, do you have something that you want to ask?
Yeah, well, it's pretty much more of a closing statement, and I want to thank Andrew for keeping the spirit of William Whitecrow alive in the ether, because we used to joke about we were going to be out there in the eternal, and someday our radio shows would catch up with us, and we'd have a great laugh. And Andy, thank you so very much, because you've touched my life as William Whitecrow has, and I just want to thank you once again. You stay safe and you stay blessed. You stay safe and blessed, brother.
You got it, brother. Thank you so much for remembering Whitecrow. He was truly a great man.
Thank you, Bill. That was wonderful.